Welcome everyone, good day. Today we will be answering the questions that were posted on my Roadtest video on YouTube as well as my post on element14.com. So let's get started. Before we begin, make sure to check out my videos on youtube.com/GameTechElectronics. Feel free to like and subscribe. For more Pi and to post further questions, visit element14.com/Raspberry Pi. So question number one comes from the Element 14 community. Shabazz asked, "Hi, I would like to know what's in the user guide and also how to listen to music with the Pi. What's a good audio player for command line and similarly for the graphical environment, and how to play music with Python. I've not explored the sound programs in Linux for ages, so I have no idea what's available, what's pre-installed, etc. Also, if you feel it's useful, if there's a problem, how easy is it to re-download a new Raspbian and install it? And if you recommend the full image with extras or the one without extras. I installed the one without extras and was wondering if there was anything exponentially worthwhile that I'm missing." So what's in the user guide? Well, to start, I'm going to think that you were referring to the Adventures in Raspberry Pi, the book that came in the kit. Not the actual user guide. If so, I would check out raspberrypi.org/documentation for that information. It'll give you lots of great little bits of information on getting started and the user guide there. The Adventures in Raspberry Pi goes into depth on setup and first time use, along with starting with some simple projects using Python, Scratch, and Turtle. In the final project in the book, it sets you up for using the GPIO, and it shows you how to properly map buttons to do actions. It is a really well done and almost perfectly laid out with video tutorials available on the site as well as the code. Before each project, it does lay out any other components that are required. For the most part, it's only really needed for the final project. So how the music question, we're going to start that one with playing music from the command line. There is a bunch of options. I would certainly say to check out the link here and then read about using OMX Player. M-Player should play from command line as well. Other options to play music from the command line would be, of course, there is a ton of other command line programs in the software selection of the Raspberry Pi. GUI based ones, another loaded question there. One there is tons of them. I recently tried out a bunch and I really enjoyed. Or you can make your own with a VLC Python script. But I will say I prefer making my own streaming service in my house with Cherry Music. Now I've been using this for quite some time. Now I will say it's been a great addition for me to play my backed up music collection on. So whether it's the command line or a GUI based option that you're looking for, there is tons of options when it comes to playing audio files and even videos through each method. How easy is it to re-download a new Raspbian and install it? Well, we are pretty lucky the noobs card that came in the kit wasn't outdated. So on boot, it was quite easy to select which operating system and then away you go. To redo it, just hold down Shift on the keyboard, down on boot up, and it will bring you back to the noobs recovery. So for me, I always add the extras. I tend to install them after anyways if I use the one without the extras. If you want to use an image file, though, it's pretty easy to use the new tool. But I had no luck with it on Windows 7. But they have since updated it, so not sure. But you can always do it the old way of downloading the ISO file. For more information on that, you can check out all the ways to use a Raspberry Pi image here. Basically, if I'm on Wi-Fi, I will run without the extras. If I'm connected with an Ethernet cable, I will run the full install. Since most of the time I'm pretty far away from my router and downloading at 1.3 megabytes a second from my office gets a bit painful. So I would say a full install is great. If you want, you can read the full release notes here, but it's basically everything in the Pi icon, then preferences, and then finally click on recommended software, and then checking them all off to install. Just a FYI, anyone that hasn't been there for a while, if you have Buster installed and it's fully updated, there's some new toys to play with in there. Question 2 comes from the Element 14 community. Douglas Wong asked, if you run the standard stress test for the Raspberry Pi with the Pi in the case, does the Pi throttle back due to overheating? And he gave the example of the thermal testing that they did there. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we will try it out. So this is a really good question. First thing we want to do is run the tests that are provided in the tutorial there that Douglas Wong posted and try it out on the Pi 3. To do so, we will do the following. We'll install the stress test by these following commands. You can follow along and input them. And we'll continue on to the next page here. So by all means, pause, look at this. It's also posted in the comment or in the description below, as well as on the Element 14 website, so you can copy and paste to your heart's content and get set up right quick. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and post any questions you have down below. So first of all, if you would like to see my actual test on the Raspberry Pi 3 starter kit in action in the official Raspberry Pi case, you can head over to YouTube with this link and watch it. The cooling process was the only thing I sped up. To me, unless you're doing some serious stressing on your Pi 3, you won't have any issues with the throttling when it's overheating, since the drops are pretty small in CPU when it does finally throttle down. I would have to say that the Pi 3 did quite well and didn't lock up or have any issues even after further tests to see if I could get it to lock up and overheat to the point where it shut down. Question number 3 from the Element 14 community. Dave Ingalls asked, it looks like the supplied book has 2 chapters on music, one on the Sonic Pi application and the other on creating an MP3 jukebox type app. Although the latter appears to expect you to have access to a breadboard, an LCD screen, and some buttons to use with GPIO, which don't appear to be included. The book also expects access to the Raspberry Pi camera, so perhaps one question is based around the suitability of the book supplied with the kit. The 3rd edition of the book was published in 2006, so now 4 years old, so may expect an earlier version of the OS. Does this cause any other issues? Great question. Dave asked a few more questions, so we'll just get to those shortly. So thought I would break them up into the way he posted. First off, on the book, you do not require the camera for any of the projects in the version that was provided. Secondly, yes, you need more supplies, and if you have seen my review on the kit posted on the Roadtest now, you will know that it was one of my biggest issues that there wasn't a small amount of parts provided that were needed to complete all the projects in the book. Finally, there was no issues completing the book with the newest version of Buster installed on the Pi. so all the tutorials and everything in there was still relevant to anyone trying it out for the first time. Question 4. Do you think this bundle is suitable as an educational gift for the younger generation, the older generation? What groups of people do you think it is primarily aimed at? After completing the book, are there any pointers as to where the reader should go to continue their journey with the pie? Do these pointers point to operational sites or, as often the case, frustrating broken links? What I think. So as far as a gift for someone, yes, it would be great, but not for all. I think that it would be great as a book to get anyone interested in programming or building stuff that is just starting out. I read somewhere that this book was geared to 11 to 16-year-old kids. To me, that's a yes and a no. It really depends on the kid, and there is a lot of programming and things to learn. It would be great for someone to teach their kids, but not just flop it down on them and expect them to rip through the book in a few days. Finding out that they have to order more supplies for them to complete the projects might also put people on edge. It's not a complete starter kit in my opinion. And those looking for that might want to remember to double check to make sure nothing else is required in reviews on the kits they may be purchasing for presents or gifts. But it would certainly get them started and set up, but not to the end project, unfortunately. I was lucky to have everything sitting on my workbench when I started, just from parts I have accumulated over the years. So a secondary kit to add on would have been ideal with all the parts. I really think that this is geared to those who have some knowledge and have played with the Raspberry Pi and maybe want to upgrade their setup to add on or have for another project. There is links to places to go and sites to join, so there is great places and communities for them to join and take part in and view other projects and continue their journey. It really all depends on what you want to do after you complete the book. Join the Scratch community, Python programming courses, and so on. So if you want to build your own hat or make your own game, there is tons of communities to join. But of course, join element14.com because we have lots of great help and support. And with the road tests and design challenges, you never know what you might make next. Maybe the largest Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. Oh wait, I did that already. All the links in the book still work. As long as those continue to be available to us, then the book should continue to be of use to everyone. I can't see it not being relevant for some time to come yet. Question 5. Do you think the projects in the book, combined with the provided hardware, encourage the readers to explore the underlying concepts further on their own in order to adapt, customize, improve the project, or are they like many resources and appear to be more of a means to an end, aimed more at reproducing a set of steps in order to complete the project, before quickly moving on to the next one? Yes, no, maybe so. I think the book covers a ton of great topics, and like I have stated before, it depends on the person and where they fall in love with the things that they can do. If it's making things light up or communicate through the GPIO to programming and making music, I found it gave a good ground of the fundamentals of the things everyone should know going into it. Mind you, there was stuff I thought was missing. The projects really leave it up to you to be creative, though. The projects, the only one that you will probably only make exactly is the final jukebox project. Since making the graphics and characters is all you in the book, I found myself even editing sprites for a few hours in Scratch too. And I was having fun just doing that. But since I wanted to get through the book for the road test, I did move on fairly quickly, but would have spent a lot more time on each chapter, playing around with each a bunch more if given the chance. Question 6. From the Element 14 community, Tony Reynolds asks, how is it holding up as your desktop? Which apps do you keep open? Do you find yourself closing apps to make room for new tasks due to the memory constraints, CPU constraints? Did you find a way to run from faster drives like an SSD or over an SD card? This makes my Pi 4 work a lot faster. Well, previously I've used the Pi 3B Plus as a desktop. This kit is great. I even installed Steam Link on it for my daughter so she could play her games in her room instead of my office. I have handed it over to her to play with and see how it goes. I should have an update on that here soon as well. So prior I used my 3B Plus as the desktop. Now I use a Pi 4 4GB, just upgraded from the 2. Back on the 3B Plus, the only things I couldn't do then that I can do now was only a few things. Before, running SketchUp in the browser for 3D modeling wasn't working. Doing video editing was a really big chore. Audio editing was good, and browsing the web was great as well. Which apps do you keep open? Do you find yourself closing apps to make room for new tasks due to memory constraints, CPU constraints? So, when working on the Pi 3, I 100% only keep open one thing at a time, which is not the case on the Pi 4. To sum those both up in one answer is 100% only open what you want to work on. The odd time I will have a browser open and an app, but will close the browser when not needed. Sure, I've always run my Pis off of external SSD drives or other drives, depends on the project really. I do find in some instances micro SD cards might actually be faster, so always run speed tests on your drives. With noobs, you can select the drive you want to have it installed on, as well as Berry Boot. Both great bootloaders. If you are using an IMG file, you might have to copy it with the SD card copier, but there's other ways to get it going as well. So that sums it up. Only a few questions. I hope I had more. I had tons of spelling mistakes in that, so don't hold that against me too much. I tried to go through it, but obviously I missed things. So thank you, and make sure to post any questions you have on the community or on the video below here. Thanks for watching, everyone. You have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Take care, eh?